Try that again. Every time I got distracted by the fact that the compressor went off. So anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to Sunday service. As you can see tonight, I'm joined by the lovely Drewe Manton. It says here.
Thank you.
I know. It's how you doing, Drewe?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, not too bad as we discussed previously. A bit of a sort of week.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that almost needs discussing on its own, because it comes back to sort of what we were discussing here last week, in that people have been asking if I'm going to get back to doing YouTube videos. And what I've found is that this week I was planning to start filming my new project for a YouTube video. But I found that the idea of setting everything up and then recording it all and editing it all and all the rest of it, it was kind of making me not want to start the project. So I was putting it off and I was putting it off and I was putting it off. And this morning I got up and I went, you know what? I can't do it. I just can't. I can't do that at the moment. All the recording and editing and all that sort of stuff. So I'm gonna not and get on with the project. And I've had a brilliant day's modelling out of it. So after nearly a week of not doing anything, suddenly deciding that I'm not gonna, do all the video stuff for it has meant I've just spent a day modeling very, very happily. So I think it's with apologies to people who wanted me to get back to it. That's not going to happen just yet, because the kind of stress and anxiety of setting everything up to do it is stopping me actually doing any building at all. So, and I know, I've got a past with anxiety. I left a previous employment because of it, and so you have experience yourself, so you know how that kind of works.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So the idea of saying no, I can't do it, and stepping back has kind of, cured that anxiety.
Yeah. To be honest, we can't all do Martin Kovac levels of genius, and there's a reason why he's so brilliant, is because he's just so brilliant. But even I get the feeling that I think even Martin has started to experience a little bit of
he stepped back from it himself, hasn't he, and gone to a different kind of production schedule, if you like, and sort of paradigm sort of thing. But yeah, it's the idea of only having, I have a job, that takes me away 5 days a week doing, so I get evenings and the odd morning here and there, depending on what shift I'm on. So unlike, a few of the YouTubers where it's an extension of their job, or it actually is their job, I don't have that luxury. So I think it's just best we say, for the time being, no, and I'll get on with building and sharing the build by all means, on here and on photographs and on my pages and stuff like that. But yeah, the stress of recording and editing it all is just not for me at the moment. So
to be honest with you, Drewe, this is why I find sometimes just doing a live stream of a build of a project is that much easier. It's me being lazy, but it's a way people can participate and watch what you're doing. You get to talk about what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not like, last week I grabbed the airbrush and a model and I showed people some airbrushing, didn't I? So it's not about it's not about my willingness to show what I'm doing. It's about all the additional stresses that go with recording and editing all that and doing voiceover and stuff.
And it is supposed to be a hobby.
Exactly that.
Mm.
Exactly that. You know, I'm never going to be. I'm never going to be a person who can make money from a YouTube channel. It's just simply don't get that kind of, you know, that kind of traffic. So, excuse me. On that basis, I'd rather just keep it, you know, keep the building as my hobby. And you know, that doesn't mean that at some point I'm not suddenly going to become overwhelmed with enthusiasm to sit down and edit a video and put it together, because I may well do, because that is, you know, it is another aspect of my interest that kind of waxes and wanes. And if it sort of waxes at some point, I'll get back to it and do it quite happily. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to say this is as much as you're going to see of me and my beautiful visage.
I'm just going to say hello.
Say something nice, John.
Sorry?
Say something nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
I'm gonna, no. You know, I hold you in the highest regard, Drew. You know that. Just, you know, embarrassing him with a compliment there.
Move on.
Let's move on. We're going to say hello to 9 Bolts, Russell Taylor, Jim Altergott, My Planes Don't Fly, Dave Swindle, Andy Brennan, Mark Ryan, Locks9, scrolls down, Damien Mullen. We're going to get T-shirts done that are just going to have scrolls down written on it. Simon James Colley, Mike Williams, hello Mike. Kenny Benton, Greg Woodbridge, Kev Tinker, Wayne Beatty, your brother. Hello, Rory, Steve Moores, Nick Brown. Hello, Nick. Scrolls down. Sean Smith, Crazy Loca, DRS Trains. Stan Codling, Stephen Pryor, Shane Weir, Dougal McWoogle, Douglas Hunter, Powell Kupovich, Bill Clark. Hello, Bill. How are you? Jerry Doyle. Simon Lewis, Tony Vaughan, Ian Goldstraw. So we've got a good crowd tonight. Thank you everybody for joining us, for watching two middle-aged men just fall apart at the seams live on the internet. So
thanks for joining us to watch two middle-aged men discuss their social anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, damn right. Very good. Right, well, what have I been up to? It will come as no surprise, folks, that I'm still messing around with the Airfix K2 ambulance. To be honest with you, it's just been a busy week of work, and a little bit of recovery as well, because you know I've still got to try and manage that a bit. But there we go. That's where we are with the interior of the ambulance, and I've also just going to go and grab some other bits and pieces. There's the rest of the stretchers. So I've tried to vary the stretchers out a bit, make them all look a little bit different. But as I was saying to Drew before we started the show, that the problem I've got is that I can spend an inordinate, I'll get that word right in a second, an inordinate.
Put your teeth in. Inordinate.
That's the word. Inordinate amount of time. I say I haven't even had a drink yet. And inordinate, I'll get it right in a minute, a lot of time doing details that frankly are not going to be seen. And we were talking about Martin before the show. We were talking about Martin Kovac's A7V, which is a masterpiece. But how much of that brilliant model do you actually get to see? Ultimately, you see it all in his videos, which is
you see him doing it. But once it's completed, there was very little of it there, was there? It was all.
So I need to get a wiggle on with this and stop kind of faffing around. So so what I've done, let me just pull the camera up. I finally got round to painting the floor the correct shade, which is a kind of like a brownie color. I've also done a little bit of weathering on those molded insets there. But again, the thing is once those are in place, you're not going to see that much. This is done with oil brushes, so I could just do with blending those in a little bit more. But so
I would kind
that's
of
it.
leave them exaggerated. I would leave them exaggerated, pop them in with a bit of PVA, and move on.
Well, what I've got here is this is one of my Poundland paintbrushes. In fact, this I'll show you the set. Hang about, let me just go and grab it. This is the set of brushes from Poundland. They are Makeup Gallery Artistic Flair 7 nail art brushes, or pack de 7 pinceles, it says. But
that is a surprisingly useful little brush.
It really is. And yeah, let me just pop that back in the mug. So this one I have found is a very effective blending brush, especially for things like the oil brushes. So because you can absolutely muller a brush blending oil brushes. So I find one that is one that I can afford to dispense with. And again, I'm just going to go on this side, just going to go in there and do a little bit of blending, because this is the great thing about the oil brushes, is that you can go in there and you can blend them dry as well. So but that's it. That's as much as I'm going to do. Oops, Daisy, I've broken the end bit off. But we're just going to drop them in there. That'll do. That'll be fine. So whilst you're talking about your Armour Hurricane tonight, I'm going to be gluing more and more bits of the ambulance together. So, it's tremendous fun. Really enjoying it. So, absolutely. Mike Williams says procrastination is one of those things we've all been guilty of in this hobby. It's a par for the course. Recognizing it is the way out of it, I find. Absolutely. I agree. I agree, Mike. In fact,
and for me, it was literally casting aside the idea that I had to do something and deciding that I didn't need to do it.
Yeah.
And then I immediately, within an hour, I was busy snipping parts off of sprues and building models. So.
Drew and I had this conversation today where we were talking about how you can overcomplicate what is essentially an inordinately simple hobby, and you can overcomplicate things by trying to kind of like think your way out of it, and and do kind of like sitting down and writing lists and God knows what else, where it's just get on and build something. Just get that memory muscle going.
Together. For the most part, the sum total of my planning for a build involves the fact that I've got it built up here in my head, what it's going to look like. Apart from that, everything else is just stumbling and fumbling my way towards hopefully getting that mental image in front of me as a model. And that's pretty much the sum total of my proper planning. Now I might sit down, before I start modeling in any given day and think about what I want to achieve that day. But that's it. That's as far as it goes.
John and Lynn make a very good point. I like this phrase, paralysis by analysis.
Yes.
I like that. That's absolutely brilliant. Anyway, enough of me wittering on here. I do believe you have an exciting project that you are working on at the moment. So I'm going to hand.
Well, being the last, pretty much the last one of our cohort to get around to starting one of these, I think is Mike Williams. Our Mike Williams has built one. Jen's built one. Spencer's built one, and I'm kind of fumbling along behind by some way.
I haven't built one.
No.
You're ahead of me.
But yeah, it's I finally, as we talked about starting stuff today, I finally made a start on the Armour hobby Hurricane in 48th, and what a phenomenal day it's been. What a beautiful model. it's just everything about this so far has been a complete pleasure. You know, getting all this wheelbase built and into it, and getting the wings. It's just, you know, that is tiny drops of glue all along, and that's where we are already. You know, a big tray full of, you know, bits and bobs, tanks, and again, the slightest cleanup, a couple of drops of glue, and here we are. Yeah, Jim, I watched it today actually. The Plasmo build. That's a tropical filter, which I'm not using, but I just built it anyway. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, it's just absolutely absolute precision. Absolute precision. I mean, even the wheels have got the you know, the sidewall lettering and stuff. That there's absolutely no call really to replace the wheels, like, you know, I quite often do. The one thing Armour were good enough to send us when they sent us this kit was they sent us the 3D printed sundries.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, you know, I mean, I do a lot of 3D printing, as you know, my own designing and 3D printing. This stuff is absolutely a cut above. They're using obviously commercial quality 3D printers, and just the way they mounted it and supported it is some of the best I've ever seen. It comes away so easily, but it's also the precision. Is that when you get this in place in the right position, you can see where the top of those seat belts just disappear into the bulkhead there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just the most phenomenal piece of 3D printing I've ever seen. So that hopefully will be as much of a joy to paint as it was to remove it from its supports. So yeah, I mean, at this point, it's a case of excuse me. I spent the day, you know, cutting parts off the sprues and cleaning them up and stuff to see, and the level of detail on these is just mind-bogglingly good. I know a lot of people have questioned these pin marks.
Mm-hmm.
that Armour kits tend to have all over them, and the wings have got just reams of them all up on both wing halves, all around here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just absolutely reams of them, and people are wondering what the point is. Now, the only thing I can think of, and something I have noticed in looking over this, I cannot find a single sink mark anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Of any kind whatsoever. Not even the kind of, you know, the kind of very light dipping you sometimes get along, you know, some aileron lines and stuff like that. I cannot find a single sink mark on this plastic anywhere, John. So I can only imagine it's some kind of engineer.
Oh, Drew has, whoops a daisy. We've lost Drew for a second there. Oh no, he's back. Sorry, Drew, we lost you. We lost you for a second.
Yeah, no, it went blank here as well, John.
Yeah. All right, you're off.
But
nope, I lost him again. Nope, I'm afraid Drew's internet tonight is obviously playing up a bit.
Strange. I don't know what's going on.
You haven't got anything else streaming in the background, have you?
No, absolutely nothing. No.
I
don't know if my internet connection's playing up a little bit.
I would suggest it is. Do you want to go and reboot it, and I'll bring you back in.
Well, let's see what happens for the next 2 minutes. That might have just been it.
Okay.
Let's just see what happens.
I'll hand you back over then.
If it doesn't, no, there's really, honestly, John, there's not a lot more to say. That's pretty much it. That's where we are. Tomorrow I'll start adding more bits and pieces. And
I agree with you, by the way. I think those marks are a method of punching it out of the molds without any sink marks. But I will ask my designer chappies, who they've probably got their own. They've probably got their own.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's necessarily even that, John. I think it's also some kind of cooling solution.
Yeah.
Some kind of, taking account of the plastic cooling rates and stuff like that. But yeah, it's certainly there's no sinkage on this model anywhere that I can find.
Mike makes a point. He says, my thoughts are those pins were reinforcements for the amount of rivets present on the opposite side of them during the molding process. Oh, that's interesting.
Don't know. All I'll say is that the net result is some of the cleanest external moldings I've ever seen on a model.
Mm-hmm.
We're people who build Tamiya Tomcats.
Mm-hmm.
We know what clean molding looks like, don't we?
Oh goodness me, yeah, absolutely.
So,
and also, I'm just going to say that Hurricane, I think we got a brief glimpse of it there, but they've managed to get one would hope they've managed to get the width of the nose right, because the biggest bugbear of many Hurricane kits is that you couldn't fit a Merlin engine inside that cowl. Here we go.
Well, that looks.
Yep.
Yeah. That looks all pretty much in order to me. I can't see there anything being wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, I've just done my monthly op-ed for Model Airplane International for Brett's magazine, and would you believe, by coincidence, this month I was talking about Hurricane kits,
right?
And I was doing like a rundown of the ones that I've built and the ones that I've had down the years and whatnot, and the one of the biggest bugbear with Hurricane kits down the years is that a lot of them have been superbly molded, but when you look at the nose in plan view, there's no way you get a Merlin engine inside.
Yeah, superbly molded, not very hurricane-y.
Yep. And I think I might be right in saying that some of the first of the modern Hurricane kits to actually get the nose width right were the Hasegawa kits from the mid.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some concerns with the aft fuselage shape on those kits, wasn't there? But nobody's ever really complained about the nose. I think the kit that started it was probably so many kits like the Academy one and stuff have been based on the Hella kit, which was noticeably skinny over the nose. And I think there's been a lot of sort of because that's a lovely model. That's pretty much in the same ballpark as the Spitfire 16 we were discussing last week. It's a beautifully. It's one of the best examples of period molding. That's the best way to put it. Does it stand up today compared to the Armour Hobby ones or stuff like that? No, of course it doesn't. But it's 45 years old. It's a one of the most beautiful examples of period molding. But it had that fundamental inaccuracy with the nose.
As I am wont to say quite often, great kit, poor replica, and I think that's certainly true of the for those of you who don't know the Hella Hurricane, compared to every other Hurricane kit that was out of the market at the time, the Hella kit was one of the first ones that actually had wheel wells. It actually had a cockpit. I mean, when you start comparing it to all the other 72nd scale Hurricanes that are on the market, so it would have been the Airfix ones, the Mark IV RP, the Mark 1/Mark II, and the Mark 1 they eventually did.
But having said that, Airfix's Mark 1 from 1977 was a nice model as well.
It's one of the first accurate Hurricane
Yeah.
kits. The nose on that is still a bit slimish, but it was one of the first Hurricane kits. Rory has just mentioned the Matchbox Hurricane Mark II. There were other kits around at the time. There was the Revell kit, that was a Mark 1. There was the Aoshima kit, that was a Mark 2. I mean, they're abysmal. And
Frog.
then the Frog kit, which again, it's honest to goodness, that nose is so slim you wouldn't be able to get half a Merlin engine into it. And then Hella came along, but Hella, as we said, beautiful moldings. It's everything on it is gorgeous except for the accuracy.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop it being a supremely popular kit, because so many people bought it and either didn't notice or didn't care that the nose on it was so slim.
Yeah, I mean, I built it multiple times when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Great model. John Connolly there saying, do you think Armour has set a new standard in the hobby, considering the company is only several people? Yes, quite frankly. Yeah. And I mean, they've been pretty much leading the charge in 72nd the last couple of years. 72nd, I should say, World War II models. And now they've stepped up into 48th. This is, I would call this better than. I got I got the
the FM2.
I got the FM2 this week from Edward, and it's typically Edward. It's I've got the F4 F3 as well, so I know it's a beautiful model. But I would call this Armour Hurricane a step above. It's less fussy. It's less fussy, and I think the surface detail is better.
Is that FM2 48 scale?
Yeah. I was going to.
I must have been away somewhere else when that was announced.
Yeah, it's been a while. It was released at the US Nationals last month, but obviously they got it quickly released here. But there's also a Mark. Is it Mark 6? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Our Mark 6 included in the box. So, it's a typically comprehensive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different markings options in the kit. So it's beautiful, and I want to build it ASAP because it's my favourite Wildcat, the FM2. So I would like to build it ASAP. But that's. But like I say, I think the Armour Hurricane is a step above in execution.
John Connolly says, "Oh no, sorry, not John. It was sorry. We're just losing some of the comments here. Bear with me. Sorry, it was Jim. Sorry about that." Jim says, what about the monogram 48 scale Mark IIc? Now, Jim, there's the thing, because I did actually mention that in my op-ed. And the thing about the monogram one was remarkable at the time for the amount of options that it included. So it gave you the rockets, it gave you the Vokes filter, it gave you the drop tanks. Hello, compressor. I'm going to turn that thing off in a second. It gave you, oh goodness me, I'm trying to think what else it gave you. It gave you a lot of stuff to hang underneath the wings. It was really, really quite comprehensive. But was it accurate? No, it wasn't. It was absolutely horrible. It was, sorry, Monogram, but it was...
Realistically, really... I don't think anybody from Monogram would disagree with you.
No.
It was the same as that. They did a 48 scale Wildcat before anybody else, didn't they? Is it going to compare to the Edward one? Of course, it's not. It's 60 years old. It's
And they did a 48 scale Spitfire Mark 9, which is also.
Did they though?
I was going to say they did a 48 scale Spitfire shaped aeroplane. I think is the best way of describing it. But just going back to the Hurricanes again. is that a couple of people have mentioned the Jim mentioned, what about the monogram 48 scale one? Yep. I kind of, yep. It exists. It existed once. I think that's about the kindest thing you can say about it. A couple of people have mentioned the original 48 scale Airfix Mark 1, which was one of their first 48 scale kits back in
79.
Sorry,
79?
I was going to say 79. Yeah,
Yeah.
And they pretty much managed to nail that nose width shape again. I think the only thing that the Airfix 48 scale Hurricane back in the late 70s had against it was the raised panel detail. But I built it, goodness me, mid to late 1980s. So I actually went at it with a scribing tool and actually rescribed the whole thing. Not a difficult task because it's a Hurricane. And obviously in the last few years, Airfix have replaced that kit with a brand new one, which also includes a Sea Hurricane as well. So, it's all these things do come around, and they go around, they come around.
Although you could argue that having already nailed it with the 72nd scale Mark 1 a couple of years before.
Oh, the fabric wing one. Was
it the Mark 1 from 77 fabric? No, I don't think it was.
No. Oh, you mean the original 1970?
Yeah, the original from 19. What I'm saying is, they got the 48 scale Mark 1 right in 79, but on the back of having nailed it pretty much in 77 in 72nd scale, they perhaps should have done. But having said that, we know that that doesn't always follow through either, does it? Look at the 72nd and 48 scale TSR2s.
Yep, fair enough. I haven't seen the 48 scale one. I've built the 72nd scale one, but I haven't seen the 48 scale one. So you may say that, I can't comment. Sorry, going back to Hurricanes again, is that and obviously you've had in the last 10 years or so, we've had the fabric winged Hurricane from Airfix as well, which is, again, it's a beautiful little kit.
Nice model.
Obviously I'll declare an interest in that one, but it is a beautiful little kit. And then we've had in the last year or so, we've also had a brand new 32nd scale one from Revell, which Mike Williams has built and done an absolutely top dollar job on. So the Hurricane, I know it's probably not as popular as the Spitfire, which is understandable because they just didn't do as many variants as the Spitfire. Spitfire has a certain longevity to it because of its its ubiquity as an aeroplane. But in the last few years, we have been well served with brand new Hurricane kits. And I'm not talking about the original Revell Mark IIs from the late 1980s, and I'm certainly not talking about the Academy kit. I'm talking about Airfix, Armour, Revell. So we've had, we have had some really very decent Hurricane kits across all three scales now, and especially now that Armour have dipped their toe into 48 scale. One can but sit back and think, well, what are they going to do? What else are they going to do?
Typhoon. There we go. Anyway.
No, I meant in terms of Hurricanes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they did. Nice if they did a Typhoon. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna play catch up with the comments here. Rory, your brother, says, I'm just reminding you of this. He says, I know that we are looking at the accuracy of the older Hurricane kits from our old age view. Speak for yourself, Rory. But at the time I built the Helikit, I didn't know it was wrong. And to be honest, knowing that now doesn't alter my opinion that it's still a great kit.
It doesn't alter our opinion.
Yeah,
it doesn't alter our opinion. It's a great kit.
Yeah,
it's almost the point we're making, isn't it?
Yeah,
it was a great. We know in retrospect that there are accuracy issues with it, but it was still a prime example of period molding. great model.
Oh, actually, Peter Oxley has reminded me.
So many, we completely forgot about that one.
Yeah, I forgot all about the Italeri Hurricane in 48 scale. Whoopsie. Perhaps that's for the best.
I was going to say, some would argue.
Yeah, do you know what? I wrote what I thought was a fairly comprehensive kind of like rundown of all the Hurricane kits that have been produced over the last kind of like 20 to 30 years. Completely forgot about the Italeri ones. Whoopsie.
Oh dear. Anyway.
Yeah, oh dear. And Lox9 says, what's the fly model like? You see, I didn't mention the fly model in my rundown because it's not quite mainstreamish. If you see,
no, I mean, I've seen some really nice builds of it. But again, I think as soon as one of the mainstream manufacturers releases one in the same scale, those kits just kind of, get pushed to the back, don't they?
Stephen Pryor asks, he says, what about the new Hobby Boss 148th Hurricane? Do you know what, Stephen? I haven't seen it yet. I will keep an open mind. If I see one for a decent price, I might grab one and do a write-up on it. I'm hoping that it doesn't repeat any of the gaffes of their 72nd scale one, because I was a big fan of their 72nd scale one when it came out. Goodness me, 15 years ago now? Because I loved that easy build breakdown. I thought so many of those easy build kits were they were brilliant models, but a lot of them were shockingly poor replicas, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
So I'm just scrolling down to I've got to say hello to Penny's Pit Stop. She says, evening again, guys. And yeah, so we had this discussion before the show about how many Hurricane kits had we built down the years. And I'll throw my list at you. Built the Airfix Mark 1. I built the very recent Airfix Mark II, the one from about 2009. Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
I built the Matchbox Hurricane Mark II. Built the Hella one. Built the Airfix Mark 1 in 48 scale. Built the Airfix 24 scale one 25 years ago. Yep. I'm just trying to think, and I built the Hobby Boss one, OBS, and I've got a Zvezda Mark II.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
Which is I just need to get some better decals for it, because Zvezda's decals a bit grim. So, and I need to find the rest of the kit as well, because that went with me to Al Murray's Warfest 2 years ago. Not all of it came back. So,
yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like I said to you earlier, John. This is the first 48 scale Hurricane I've ever built. But I mean, Airfix. The first one I can remember building is that Airfix Mark 1 from 77. And it's probably about that time as well I built the Matchbox Mark 2C, the one that has the entirely erroneous Night Reaper markings.
Yep.
Which I only discovered this week was entirely erroneous, which kind of scuttled my plans a little bit. But yeah, that and I built the Hella one. I've built the Matchbox one numerous times, the Hella one numerous times. The Airfix new Fabric Wing Mark 1 from a few years ago. But I don't. Oh, and I mean, just probably 5 or 6 of the Revell 72nd ones from the mid-90s when it was. I just, every boxing of that came out, I built 1 or 2 of. Which is a great little model. Great little model.
I seem to remember that I built the Desert one for Scale Aircraft Modelling in the late 1990s.
Yeah.
I'm just
because they released that as a sea
hurricane.
Well, didn't they?
Sorry?
They released that as a sea Hurricane as well.
They did. That's a beautiful kit.
Because the first one they released was the 2B with the 12-gun 303 wing. And the 2C followed sort of like the year after. But no, overall, I don't think I've built as many Hurricanes as I would otherwise have suspected. I think that kind of mid-90s run through of the Revell ones as they were being released kind of skews my memories a little bit, if you know what I mean. I did build. I built one of the Hasegawa Mark Ones as well, which I've
never built any of them.
Which I remember being just a very simple, nice little build.
See, Hasegawa did have the wisdom to break it up at the nose so that you could do the Mark 1 and the Mark 2.
Yeah, they released the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 from the same basic set of toolings, which was, I remember it being a nice build, actually, nice kit. But I mean, God, that's looking at sort of like 20, over a quarter of a century ago now.
Yeah, I know. So, Russell Taylor throws an interesting one. He says, then there are the ARC models 48 scale Hurricanes. Do you know what, Russell? Gallic shrug. I've no idea what they're. I'm just going to have a look at them now. So ARC models.
Yeah, I can remember. I can remember them existing, but that's about it. Rory says, I thought you built 2 Hasegawa ones. Possibly, I don't remember. I can remember building one. But
bear with me a second. I've just found 48 scale. Let's have a look. Sorry, I've just gone on to Aeroscale, and yeah, they're. Yeah, it's yeah. I'm going to say to people, go and read the Aeroscale review. So I'll put the link up here. It's quite interesting. So there we go.
Roxy there is saying Drewe spoke ill of Matchbox. When did I speak ill of Matchbox?
I don't know. I don't think you've ever spoken ill of Matchbox. No, I don't think you spoke ill of it. I think you and I can acknowledge that the Matchbox Mark II is not a very good kit. It's not a very good replica. It's a superb kit. It's great fun.
It's great fun, yeah, absolutely.
But it's in terms of
top box art.
Oh, do you know what? I'm going to have to go and find that now. Hang about. For people who don't know what we're talking about,
top, if entirely erroneous, box art.
Yep. Right, here we go. I'm on scale, mates. Honest to goodness, here we go. Open image in new tab. There we go. I'm just going to go and grab present, share screen. Here we go, folks. That is just absolutely phenomenal box art.
What a great piece of box art that is.
There we go. I'll shrink it down so that it fits the screen. There we go. That's better. Oh yes,
we weren't scared of a bit of violence, were we?
Oh, it's just absolutely brilliant box art. And there's a, I mean, how old would I have been when that came out? Would have been about 6 or 7. That was just the epitome of scale modeling. It was just utterly brilliant. Never mind the fact that the box art shows the glare shields, which I don't think were in the kit at all. I stand.
No, I'm fairly certain they weren't. They weren't. In fact, I looked at that and I was instantly drawn to them and went, God, I don't remember the kit having them. That's really cool. And then you said I don't think it did, and it kind of okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that is just a piece of goodness me. It's Matchbox. Of course it's a piece of phenomenal box art. It's Roy Huxley was just he was a genius. It's funny how Airfix and Matchbox both had Roys. So
yeah.
And I'm just having a quick look. Phil RT Studio says, I was able to grab the 72nd scale Armour Hurry Mark 1 Battle of Britain. Looks amazing. Comes with a canopy mast template on the instruction sheet. I've got a couple of them behind me.
I should say, actually, that reminds me, I did build the Armour Mark 1 as well. I did a South African one. So
yeah,
yes.
you did.
Yes.
Yep. No, I've got a couple of the Armour Hurricanes, and I picked them up of all places. Where did I pick them up from? It was that little, you and I haven't been there yet, but it was that little model shop in Minehead. So it's like a model shop / sweet shop just off the main shopping boulevard. But I was in there a couple of Christmases. I was in there, and he had a couple of Armour Hurricanes, and I thought, well, I can't leave this place empty-handed. And he says, something going a bit Michael Caine. And I also, if you remember this is probably pre-pandemic, that somebody on Amazon was doing like a dual boxing. Yeah, exactly. Like that. And it was like a dual boxing for some silly price, like about 10 quid or something, post-free. So I went for that as well. Unfortunately, it's an Edward boxing with their awesome decals in it. So
yes.
Yeah, I know. Paul Bennett says, I used all of the Matchbox Mark II parts back in the day and incorporated them into a Mark I to get the shallow canopy, to get round the shallow canopy. Great fun. Yeah, and Russell says, what about the Revell Mark II Hurricanes? I seem to remember the prop was poor, but otherwise not bad, and the nose was big enough to fit a Merlin. Yeah, we just covered them, Russell, and Drew and I are big fans of the little Revell 72nd scale ones.
In fact, a lot of them.
I'm tempted to go and grab mine from the hall, but that means I got to unhook myself. So, yeah, we won't do that. But yeah, it's the only thing that I've got against Hurricane models. It's the masking of the canopies. It's just God blimey! It's just that soul destroying. That is.
Yeah, and that's why certainly this armor kit's got masks with it, kabuki masks with it for the canopy. So that takes it down to a 5-minute job. I think the 72nd one had on the instructions. I was able to scan. They have a plan on the instructions for the canopy masks. And I was able to scan and cut from that. But yeah, it is a bugbear to mask that canopy, certainly.
Yep. Funny thing is, Lox9 says the Airfix Hurricane box art with a built kit on some Hurricane plans. That's actually the first of what were then the new Airfix Hurricanes. I built that one in 1986, and I know it's Nostalgia Corner tonight, and that was while I was still at art college. So bear in mind, at that time, that Airfix Hurricane had been out for less than a decade. It was still fairly recent. Anyway, it was an article in an old Airfix magazine by Chris Ellis, where he talked about converting the Mark I into a fabric winged one. In fact, that was 3 conversion articles in the 3 conversions in the article, and it was converting a fabric wing one. Now, at the time, I just got at Christmas the Aerodata book on the Hurricane. Do you remember those Aerodata books? Yeah. So I got the Hurricane one, which has beautiful Arthur Bentley drawings of a fabric winged aircraft. So at art college, I photocopied them, taped them over the Airfix wing, sanded it smooth, and then re-scribed it. Anyway, long story short, I took an Airfix Mark I and turned it into a fabric winged version, which I've still got on my display shelves. The Watts 2-bladed prop came from an Aero Club set that I picked up from Wings and Wheels in Bath. So, yeah. See, I would go and get these models, but we'll talk about them next week.
Lord.
But Jim Watergott says, "Are we talking exclusively about 72nd scale hurricanes?" No, we're talking about we're
We're just talking
kind
about hurricane kits. It's just that
Yeah.
most of our experience is with 72nd ones.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. But Unlocks9 says 48 scale kit first out in 1979.
Yeah.
And Russell Taylor says Pacific Coast Models did the metal and fabric wing Mark 1s in 1/32. I think the thing there, Russell, was that they were probably nice models, but they were just not mainstream ones.
No, they were very much limited run, weren't they? With Tool by Sword and MPM, I think, were split the tooling duties for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's odd, really, isn't it? There's been so many mainstream, but also so many limited run kits of the Hurricane done.
Yep.
But yeah, when you break it down like we have, it's not been ill served, has it?
No. I'll tell you what, Drewe,
you
you fill in for a couple of seconds. I'm just going to go and grab my Hurricane model, so I'll be back in a couple of seconds. So
he's only going to go and do it. Yeah, Jim. I mean, I think it's definitely 48 scale was it was a predominantly US scale for many years, and 72nd was what most people in the UK built. I think that's kind of evened out these days. Certainly, I build as much 48 as I build 72nd. But yeah, I mean, it was always the States was always known in the 70s and 80s when I first started modelling. As focusing almost exclusively on 48 scale kits. What are we looking at there? The nasty, that was courtesy of, Palatoy. Palatoy have got a lot to answer for with Airfix, really, in terms of pretty much destroyed toolings as well. But fortunately, we're way past that now, and Airfix are going great guns, really, aren't they, these days? It's lucky you weren't talking about Messerschmitt BF 109 kits. It's actually quite surprising, Russ, that I didn't realise quite how many Hurricanes have been tooled over the years. So it's actually been quite eye-opening to go back over them, if you like, and actually break down how many have been released. So yeah. What am I looking at? I'm just looking at the Nido ones, 72nd Mark IV from Armour. No, Dave, they haven't. Like somebody said, one of the Canadian ones with the spinnerless prop would be nice. So yeah, there's actually so many Hurricanes.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've just been out to the display cabinet and I can't find them. So
it's actually been quite eye-opening, the amount of Hurricanes. It's been it turned into a very Hurricane-centric show.
That was the plan.
But it's when you break it down, I guess you know of all these kits, but when you actually bring them all together and discuss it, you go, Lord, that's a lot of models that have been tooled of the Hurricane over the years. And some of them are even quite accurate. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, sorry. I've just been told turn off the compressor while you're at it.
Yeah.
Just done that. Sorry about that.
Oh dear.
Yep. But yeah, it was. Yeah, we are going to have a bit of a Hurricane-centric one tonight because, I've like I say, I love building Hurricanes, but I just find those canopies to be an absolute bind. They really are. I just wish there was a method whereby you could buy not canopy mask, but almost like a canopy anti-mask, whereby you just literally drape the frames over the canopy.
Well, they did that, didn't they? That was the original Black Magic masks by by Meteor Productions. Remember Cutting Edge?
Oh right.
They originally did it, and that was what they did. You paint these frames and then drape them over the canopy and get frames. And then somebody said, "Hang on a minute. What about if you use the bits that don't go over the frames on the clear bits? Then you've got a mask." And everybody went, oh yeah, that makes even more sense, and switch to that. So yeah, it was the original Black Magic masks back in the mid late 90s. For about six to 8 months, I think. That was originally what they were. They were like vinyl masks where you painted the where you painted the actual frames and installed them. Oh Lord, my brother's on about piston provosts.
Yeah, I saw that. He says next week on the Sunday service, the Piston Provost, a much underkitted aircraft. Yeah, it's much underkitted, Rory, because nobody's really interested in it. Sorry. It's. Do you know what? I will. Sorry, that's me being a bit mean. Is I've got the Matchbox Piston Provost, and it's a brilliant little kit. It's very basic, but it's a brilliant little kit. However, somebody did do a new tool Piston Provost a few years ago, didn't they?
Yes. And I know Rory's got that. I know Rory's got that kit.
I seem to remember it was basic. I think is the best thing I can say about it. Would that be fair, Drew?
Do you know what, John? I've never because they did it in 48 as well. I think. I've never actually seen the kit. So yeah, S&M. Yeah. That was it. The wonderfully named S&M models. Because he passed away, didn't he? It was Micromere Toolings. Yeah. So I mean, I'm always struck whenever we go to Cosford. I always hover around that Jet Provost T1 because I just think it's a marvelous thing because it's quite clearly they've given a piston Provost a jet engine and stuck a nose wheel on it, isn't it? It's like you look at the JP3 and you can see that that's basically a new aeroplane.
Yeah.
But the JP1 is just it's just the piston Provost with a jet engine in it.
Yeah, it looks rather awkward because it's kind of like it's like an aeronautical giraffe, isn't it? It's kind of like stuck on those great big long legs,
and it's also got a kinked fuselage, hasn't it? There's that kink behind the cockpit.
Yeah,
it's a really weird lash together, if you like. Which led to the extremely successful JP3 and then JP5. So, but yeah, whenever we go to Cosford, I'm always drawn to that one they've got there because I just think it's not elegant, but I would like a kit of it.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, I would like a kit of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's they've got a piston Provost there as well, haven't they? Yes.
They have got a piston Provost there. Yep. Right. Any other business?
I don't think so. No, it was actually an interesting show turning into the Hurricane show, as it were.
Yeah. Well, this is why we let these shows sometimes go off on their own tangents. So I wish I knew where my other Hurricane models were, but
they'll turn up probably by about 9:05 tonight.
Yeah, probably. I've obviously carefully packed them away somewhere. So, but yeah, no, I haven't got anything else either. I'm hoping that I can get more of this Austin K2 ambulance done this week. So I'll probably post some photographs up and get bits and pieces done. Because like I say, as I am going to be spending forever and a day messing around with this interior, and by the time I put the roof on and put the doors on, you're not going to see any. It's not going to see any of it. No. And it's only because I want to record what I've been doing, in terms of photographs, that I'm just doing this inordinate amount of work on it. So, come on, I've had holes drilled in my head. I'm not going to use that excuse again, but some words I stumble over. So, anyway, on that note,
some words you've always stumbled over.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. On that note, also just to say a big hello to my mum who's watching from her bungalow up on the coast. Hello, Mum.
Oh, hi, John's mum.
Yeah, that's it. So it's Yeah, it's very. We had a lovely couple of hours today. I walked up to hers and in the sunshine, and it was very nice. So hello, Mum. So that'll do for now. Hopefully, we'll be back next Sunday for another Sunday service.
Yeah, I don't see any. Yeah, I should be.
Yeah, Drew.
Yeah.
Think about it.
No, I always have to think about it, but no, I don't see any reason. Yeah, I'm certainly there's nothing planned. So,
also, folks, if there is something you see during the week that you'd like us to feature on the show, do send us a message so that we can do it. Because, like I say, the problem we got at the moment is there is so much stuff coming out now.
I see quite a lot of people here are talking about the Airfix Sea King is shipping this week, so people will start having them by next week.
I was going to say we have done a show on that already, so but we can always do a recap if you like. So
I think there's going to be I think there's mileage in it, because as people get theirs, the conversation is obviously going to reignite, if you like, isn't it?
Yeah.
As people actually get theirs. So we'll talk about it if there's if there's stuff to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, that's it.
Otherwise, that's it. All right, folks. We will leave you to your peaceful Sunday evening, and like I say, hopefully we'll see you again next Sunday. So until then, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we'll see you in the next week. Bye for now.
Take care, all.